Hi, my name is Steven and I am a Police Academy recruit in Central Florida, and in this video segment I'm going to be talking about gun safety and the 4 cardinal rules that you should always adhere by anytime that you choose to pick up a firearm. So we'll go ahead and get started, and the first thing that I need to do is I need to pick up my firearm and ensure that it is unloaded. So what I'm going to do is make sure that it's first pointed in a safe direction, and that way is a safe direction. So pick up the firearm, make sure that your finger is off the trigger and out of the trigger guard. Take your hand, pull the slide back, and pull up that slide catch lever right here to ensure that the slide locks back to the rear. Now what I'm going to do while I visually inspect this weapon, I'm also going to ball my fist up, stick my pinky out, and in this order, do it in this order. First, go to the magazine well, roll my finger around, make sure that there's no magazine in the magazine well, we've checked that. Then go to the top of the gun in the chamber, stick your pinky straight down and check, also while visually inspecting that there's no round. And then last thing is to actually go forward into the barrel with your pinky and check to make sure that there's no rounds or any foreign objects that have been lodged up into the barrel before you start doing anything with this firearm. So I visually and physically check this firearm to ensure that it is unloaded. It is now safe. Now we can continue. Okay, so what we're going to go over is the 4 cardinal rules of gun safety. These rules should always be followed at all times, anytime that you or anybody around you is picking up a firearm. Okay, so the first rule is all guns are always loaded, no exceptions, which means that even though I just inspected this weapon and cleared to make sure that it wasn't loaded, I'm still going to treat it as if it was. I'm never going to point it at anybody or anything I'm not wishing to destroy or kill, no matter what, ever. So once I've done that, the second rule is always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. So if you are at the range, that would be downrange in the direction of the targets, or in any other situation that would be usually at the ground or any other direction to where there is no people or animals or anything that you weren't willing to shoot. So always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. That's rule 2. Rule number 3 is when you are handling the firearm, always keep your trigger finger, for me I'm left-handed, always keep your finger off the trigger and out of the trigger guard and on the frame until you've made a conscious decision to fire. And the trigger is obviously this part right here. The trigger guard is this area right here, this square housing, which is a blockage and kind of a safety for foreign objects scraping against and making the gun accidentally discharge. And you should always keep it up on the frame, which is this area right here. And the reason for doing so is if you have your finger in here, it may be off the trigger, but in a live fire situation, which would be police officers, military, or if you're a civilian in a self-defense situation, that's a scary deal. And your adrenaline's going to be pumping and you're going to be scared out of your mind. I don't care who you are. And the thing is, it's really easy for you to really quick do that if you get startled. And there have been lots of cases of accidental discharges to where people got scared and shot the gun when they didn't mean to shoot. And that can have absolutely devastating results. So always keep your finger right here and never move it off this position until you're ready to fire. That's rule 3. Rule number 4 and the last rule is always positively ID your target and know what lies beyond. That means that once you've made a conscious decision to fire, know your target, make sure you know what you're shooting at, which, don't blindly fire into the air, just hoping to hit something, and know what lies beyond the target, meaning that when you shoot at, let's say a bad guy, you want to make sure that there's no good guys behind him or no good things behind him. Just because there's a bad guy doesn't mean that the bullet automatically stops when you shoot at him. There are chances of overpenetration. There's obviously the reality that you could miss him and that the bullet could keep traveling. And you want to really make sure that every round that you fire is going to be a good round that isn't going to hurt anybody or anything. You can't take those rounds back after you shoot them. So going over the 4 rules again really quickly. Rule number 1, all guns are always loaded, no exceptions. Rule number 2, always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. Rule number 3, keep your finger off the trigger, out of the trigger guard, and on the frame until you've made a conscious decision to fire. And 3, always know your target and what lies beyond. As long as you adhere by those 4 rules, you'll never get hurt, and nobody that you're not intending to get hurt will get hurt. Thank you for watching.